evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to sunny California, as today it's the third race of the sixth season of the Great Lakes Truck Series presented by Patti Engineering. It's the Patti Engineering Grand Prix of Long Beach. That's right, trucks at a street circuit. I'm Seth Cole, being joined alongside by Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, usually, whoever it is I have here in the booth with me, my favorite question to lead into was, what type of racing do we expect to see? Usually when I ask that question, I have a little bit of an idea of what we're going to see. I've got no clue here today. I mean, trucks at a street circuit, it's such a strange combination.
So Long Beach is great racing and very tight racing in an Indy car, and even that comes to blows. Taking a full body stock car to a small of a track and as really as bumpy as a track as Long Beach, that's going to be something that is bound to be a little bit of entertainment.
And it's going to be one of a few road courses on the schedule as well. But I mean, here today, we have drivers that we were talking about before we came on the air that we're kind of going to be looking at, drivers that seem to always do well when it comes to any type of road course, whether it be a street circuit or, your typical Sonoma Watkins Glen. Do we look at those drivers here today to be the ones that are going to be up at the front all day long, or based on this being a type of a wild card race, does somebody through maybe some kind of pit strategy sneak out a bit of an underdog victory?
I mean, you could definitely look at last season, and as you mentioned right before we came on the air, I mean, Watkins Glen was the only road course we had last year. So looking at the results of that, Nathan Nicholson took it pretty handily by over 20 seconds. I could say off a pit strategy, maybe it could be something similar, but obviously with the unpredictability of it being a road course, of it being almost a street course for that matter, and of it being so tight and so many drivers not actually ever coming to this track, or maybe if they have visited this track, it's in a GTE car or an Indy car, that's going to be very different. I'm seeing Nicholson kind of hang off the pack here.
Yeah, they might be getting themselves single file a little bit here to come around these tight corners. I mean, the final corner at Sonoma's got nothing on Long Beach. You saw them just take that very sharp right-hand turn 11. You were saying before we came in the air, you think that's going to be the difference maker of this race, especially when it comes down to the final laps if we have a battle for the win.
Absolutely. And I guess since we have a little bit of time to go through the corners here, turn 11 that we were just in, I'd say if it's side by side, final lap, or coming to the decision point, that's going to be where we're going to see that big move being made of, hey, this is one point where you can kind of hit the guy out of the way and hopefully run away before he can catch you. That's going to be one of those tempers flaring moments. Here we go into turn one. This is going to be a heavy braking zone. I can see some drivers overcooking it, just running into the fake wall of champions there of all the tires. Then we go into the fun fountain area with the two dolphins that Seth told me about. That's extremely tight. I can't imagine too many cars getting out side by side there, especially on exit with the big wall being there. Next, we go into 4 and 5 with being heavily bumped. It doesn't look that bad, but at speed, it's very loose. Going out of 5, heavily loose, going straight into bumps. You can find yourself losing the back end of the car here. Going into turn 6, that's going to be not as heavy as a braking area, but you can kind of lock up the tires and slide on. I wouldn't be too worried about this next part. Seth could probably lead you from 7th to 8th and then going on forward because he's taking a little bit more of a look at that track.
Yeah, turn 7 going to be a sweeping left-hander. They come down here into turn 8, which is the right-hand corner. Then it's going to be your basically your longest straight, if you will. The front straightaway has a right-hand curve to it, so this is as straight as you can get here down the stretch from turn 8 to turn 9. And I've got turn 9 pegged as maybe the biggest trouble spot because you carry so much speed here down this long straightaway. Turn 9, heavy braking zone, right-hand corner. And one of the things that make these corners so unique, not only are they tight as your usual street circuit corners are, but a lot of these corners, especially here in turn 9, there is a wall of tires that is there to greet you. And more often than not, you're going to get more damage from those tires than if you were to just hit that concrete wall, I believe. Then you swing here through the final portions of the track, the sweeping left-hand at turn 10, and you guys saw it moments ago there when they rolled off the grid. Here is that right-hand at turn 11. Look how tight that corner is. These guys are down to about 35 to 40 miles per hour just to make it through that corner, and imagine what it's going to be like when they've got worn tires. As here we go, Matt, 45 laps of racing here tonight at Long Beach, and the green flag waves. Down. Oh, we got trouble already. That was the one of Brent King caught around there on the front stretch. They hadn't even gotten into turn 1. No caution going to wave as yet. That was something else we were kind of tossing around was, would we end up seeing full course yellows? Because there are certain areas of the racetrack you can see, there's wall on the left, wall on the right. If you've got trucks piled up in front of you, there's no escape route. Kingcott's finally got that truck pre-fired, and he's going to drive it away from the incident. Looks like another driver may have started from pit road. That's our Daytona winner, Lewis Woodall. And the 22 of Michael Barbagelata, not certain if he had an issue there at the start. He currently sits on pit lane as we had 36 drivers officially take the green flag for tonight's festivities. Lawson pulls away by about 2.5 truck lengths. Then you've got nose to tail rather with Hunter Manalinas in that second position and Nathan Nicholson right there in third. Matt alluded to the fact that last year the Watkins Glen race, Nathan Nicholson dominated that race, led every single lap in that one. It'll be interesting to see if Ashton Lawson will be able to lead every lap as whoa, was that Shane Tyrion getting way slideways there out of the final corner.
And that's a big thing. We're going to be fighting for traction. We're going to be fighting for braking. You saw it earlier with Barb running into Kingcott. The big thing is we have so many different braking points where people feel comfortable about shoving it way deeper into the corner than maybe someone else in front of them, and that difference in braking point could be just enough to kill someone.
Brandon Barkowski in the 6th position right now, just ahead of him, Zachary Henry in that 12. Henry was very impressive in practice and qualifying, up inside the top 5 in both of those sessions, so keep an eye on him as this race progresses on. Steven Sims right now behind the 25, Barkowski in that 7th position. Brought up the possibility of maybe there being a full course yellow depending on when a incident takes place and how many drivers are around. How does that play into strategy as far as how hard
spinner.
to push it here? Under Brittle.
Aye. And he just got a little bit goosey on the throttle and ended up spinning it right on around. He's going to spin it back in the traffic.
Oh, man, we talk about these corners being tight. Well, every portion of the racetrack is tight. And if you're facing 180 degrees the wrong direction, you almost have to wait until everybody's gone by before you can refire the truck. He was able to continue on in the 28th position, but he was running, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 17th, 18th before that. So that's a net loss of 10 spots right there.
You know, I really did not expect turn 11 to be that difficult, but I'm seeing so many people pretty much bumping and banging, just trying to get around that turn. And it's a part of trying to get the truck turned in, but we're going side by side and getting traction down is even more difficult.
Well, they're just bumping and banging, using the chrome horn, preparing for Bristol next week, that's all.
I mean, it's kind of funny that you mentioned going to Bristol because we've had a rocky few weeks. I'd say easily rocky few weeks here in this series, going from the high banks of Daytona where, I mean, wrecks are more or less expected than clean racing, I'd say. Going from all the high festivities, wow, English. Going from the festivities of high speed and pretty much all the crashes to Rockingham, where Rockingham was very rough for some of these drivers. Obviously, I think you heard some post-race interviews last week from Nathan Nicholson and co that obviously a lot of drivers in this series are not happy with each other, and it's just starting out. We're in race 3 of a 16-race season. So obviously tensions are high. How do you think that's really going to play out in this race and further in the season?
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see because, you know, we were talking about if there is some bad feeling potentially between drivers based on what's happened in the first 2 races of the season. You know, there's a couple of places here where you could issue some payback. Here today, a lot of heavy braking zones, so you could certainly use the chrome horn. And, of course, next week, the last great Coliseum, Bristol, as you saw Kyle Hall there.
Oh, nice swanger! Gets almost dumped into turn 11. Christopher Heller ran into him. Cameron Perez was almost a bystander.
We've had about maybe a half dozen trucks that have taken some wild rides here so far. And another thing about it here too, we talk about these trucks. Remember back to last week, we saw where drivers on the long run, they were slipping, they were sliding around there at Rockingham. We know that that's an abrasive racetrack on the tires. Here today, you've got the summery heat of Long Beach, and these guys, they are almost skating through the exit of some of these corners trying to get the throttle down.
And that's the thing where you have to be aggressive, but you also have to kind of cool those tires down a little bit. Because here's the thing, you've got hot tires, you have no grip. That's the thing of you have to push, you have to get grip. Some of these guys who road race are just exceptional road racers, and they know how to save tires, and they maybe can't convey or convert that over to oval success. But when you come to these tracks where it's highly technical, you see them shine like Ashton Lawson, Hunter Magdalenas, Nathan Nicholson. You see a lot of those guys shine who maybe don't usually show out at tracks.
Riding on board there with Christopher Heller as he's trying to reel in Shaden Nice-Wonger. That would be for the 18th position. Cameron Perez right behind them in the 90. Further up front might have a battle brewing for the 11th position. Shane Tyrion under fire from Michael Sensi as they take this battle down towards turn 1.
And it may be obviously you can kind of get a little bit of advantage on a guy without breaking him, but you definitely put yourself at a lot more of a risk because, hey, if...
Oh, gracious.
That's exactly what we're saying. Where almost the guy ends up taking himself out. He could easily collect you in that, and hey, that's a 10th place spot that you no longer have.
You know, do I dare say that 1, 2, and 3, you could kind of liken them to the S's, the downhill S's at Sonoma. You mess up the entry to one corner, it messes up the rest of the corner until you finally get to that straight headed for 4.
Absolutely. You know, right behind Shane Therian, we have a guy who really has been down on his luck as of late. I mean, Elliot Henderson, that man has fallen apart these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he definitely has. Elliot Henderson, this has not been the start to the season he has looked for. So far, 25th in the points gains, 43 points out of the points lead. Right now, holding down that 13th position just ahead of Gavin Fitzgerald. If nothing else, probably would be very happy leaving Long Beach with a solid
wreck in the back, Cameron Perez, Austin Moore.
And it's Perez that's going to be the one that goes around right in front of traffic. That was Nick Martin that just barely squeaked by. That's down that long straight from turn 8 to turn 9.
That's, I think that's what we call a disagreement of space. But going back to Elliot Henderson and that kind of idea, I mean, what do you do knowing you as an elite driver? Knowing you as an elite driver, what do you do to kind of claw yourself out of that mindset of, I mean, hey, it's race 2 of a 16 race season, playoffs are coming, I've got to be ahead of that top 12 line. I mean, what do you have to do in your mindset to get your season back on track?
I think the first thing you got to do is kind of go back to what brought you to the dance and look for consistency. Don't worry about finding victory lane every single week, as you might be pushing it a little bit too hard. You know, you're trying to rely on luck as well. Just kind of, you know, kick back, find yourself a comfort zone, get the top 10s, get the top 5s. The points will accumulate if you continue to do that.
Cameron Perez around again in middle of 4 and 5. I think he's honestly just burned up those tires. Oh, that's a terrible place.
Gracious.
Oh.
That's another thing too.
Oh, Nice-Wonger went around.
A lot of these corners are kind of blind corners. So when you've got oncoming traffic, they may not know that you're facing the wrong direction.
And that's the big thing where you're pretty much hauling in there as fast as you can, trying to catch up to that next guy ahead of you. Of course, you got your relative up, but with some of these corners, you cannot keep your eyes glued to that, so you're just trying to hit your marks. The next thing you know, you see a giant green car sitting side by side, and you're reading the billboard.
So much action going on. You talk about eyes glued, not sure where to glue my eyes here around this street course. A couple of things to kind of bring you up to date on that have taken place in the last few laps. Aiden DuPont, Justin Mons, they both came down pit road, unscheduled pit stops. They have fallen at least a lap down at this point in time, and you saw it for a brief moment. Your Daytona winner, Lewis Woodall, he pulled his truck down to the entrance of pit road and immediately got out of it, didn't even go down to his pit stall. He has retired from the race. Looks like Cameron Perez, who had those 2 spins, he has done the same.
Lewis Woodall was one of those guys that I kind of had some helping for tonight. I mean, he really raised a lot of questions about this track, was really worried about everyone else. Said he was fine, but obviously I don't think he was fine. But, I mean, looking back, I mean, obviously one Daytona, he got that lock into the playoffs, but he has to be ahead of that top 20 in points.
that's the big thing too, right? Because last week he ended up, I believe, DNFing that race at Rockingham, finished way outside of the top 30. As a result, he is 13th in the point standing. So if it's just another DNF here today, you know as well as I do, you can gain a lot of spots in the point standings early on in the season, but you can sure as heck
Shane
lose them as
Therrien!
well.
He ended up overrunning, it looks like turn 9, but I mean, I can vouch as well as anyone, but getting one of those wins and then being on that potential cut line of, hey, yeah, I got the win early in the season, but I missed a few races or I had some bad races here and there, and I just evidently, I mean, I'm right on the verge of losing my playoff spot. It is pressure that, I mean, you think that you resolved yourself of early in the season, and now it's pretty much, I mean, man, I've just wasted my entire season, where now it's coming down to 1 or 2 races of trying to race my way back into the playoffs.
Oh, wow, somebody had a moment there. I believe that was Steve McLean in the 75 in turn 2. They were able to all get around him. That was a tight area. Oh, Shane Therrien is now coming down pit road in the 38, but we talk about Elliot Henderson and the struggle he's had to the start of the season. How about the guy that's right behind him, your defending champion, Jake Miller? Right now he's running in 13th, but in his 2 starts this season, he's sitting 37th in the point standing. So, you know, there's 2 guys right there. They just need to leave Long Beach today with a good run.
I mean, my idea of, let's say everyone has their own idea of, hey, when you're down, I mean, what fixes it? And some people go out and say, well, obviously a win will fix this. I mean, no. I mean, obviously, yes, a win will fix it, but that's not the immediate resolve. I mean, obviously, you can go out and finish 30th, 35th, and then you can go off and win a race and then still finish 35th and 30th. I mean, that doesn't resolve it. Like you said, go back to basics. Go back to what got you here. I mean, oh, wow, I almost saw Eric Kept almost take out the car in front of him.
And Sam Hoff, 17. Really wadded up back here. You've got Miller, Fitzgerald, Henderson, Hoff, Kemp. You've got Steve McLean there as well, who had that slide through 1 and 2, but he's been able to continue on. Up towards the front, though, not much has gone on for your top 3, 4, 5. There has been some pressure put on Hunter Madalinas by Nathan Nicholson, but I was looking at this racetrack when these drivers were going around just doing their practice runs, their qualifying runs. Things were relatively spread out. I was trying in my head to figure out where would be the perfect areas for passing zones, and outside of maybe a couple of these straightaways, it just seems like there's no corners where you can take advantage of somebody else unless they spin out.
And here's the thing, I mean, you kind of mentioned that, but obviously think of how Steve was, how his position was, where, hey, he ended up having a little bit of an error. He ended up losing 5, 6 positions, and you see Eric spins it right into turn 8, almost collects. Oh, wow.
Ben Heller, the 11 that he almost got. A couple of nice saves here as well. We've seen some spins, but we've seen some saves also of drivers losing maybe only 1 or 2 positions. And the battle for second place is on. Nicholson got to the rear bumper of Madalinas that last time through turn 11, and he wants by the 9 car. They're going to come up on a lap machine. That is Aaron McErkin in that Jack Daniels car. Oh, this is a bad place to catch a slower truck.
And that's the worst thing, where it's none of his fault. I mean, obviously, he can try and hug the right side wall. Oh, wow, he's taking out the outside wall.
Michael Sensi has gone around there. That's, I believe, going into
turn
6. Oh, no, and now McLean's going to go around.
That's the thing. It's so easy to lose positions at this track. It's so hard to gain them, but, man, a simple mistake, you could lose 5 spots. But lap cars really have an effective role to play in this, where even an IndyCar, when they're around here, they have trouble dealing with lap traffic. Here it's almost amplified because, trust me, that lap guy wants to get out of your way. He does not want to be there. He doesn't want to cost you anything. He doesn't want to hit you. But it's the thing of, he has the same amount or less amount of grip than the leader does. He is trying his best to get out of his way. And honestly, there's nowhere to go on this track.
Absolutely. Hunter Reynolds coming down pit road. Yeah, to your point right there, when we saw the 71 get caught, that was on the exit of a corner as well. So makes it even harder to figure out, where do I go to get out of these lead lap trucks' way. I'll tell you who's gone, and that's Ashton Lawson. 4.5 seconds right now over the second place battle. They're going to catch up to, is that Shiplet, I believe, in the 28.
No. Well, he kept it out of the way. Oh.
Wow, gracious.
And that's the thing, there's no good spot, especially in the fountain. You saw the exit of that corner. It is so tight. And that's the big part where Nicholson has been really good in that first section of the track, turns 1 through 5. He has been gaining on Madalinas there. But the second part of the track, he seems to be about even with Madalinas unless he messes up.
A couple more drivers have come down pit road as Madalinas ran that corner a little wider maybe than I guess he would have liked to. Almost looped it around, saw the rear grip go away. Shane Tyrion, he's come down pit road and made the turn to the garage area. Hunter Brittle, just a lap ago, has also gone back behind the walls. So the garage area is starting to pile up here, and you may be wondering, well, if we've got so many drivers that are DNFing, I saw even a truck that was smoking on pit road, why is there no caution? Well, it's a street circuit. There's road course yellows, local yellows, but no full course
spinner
yellows.
in turn 11.
Two of them. Oh, it just took out Nicholson. That was the 29 of Nathan Jump, who was right in front of the 99, and now Nicholson's got some front end damage.
Yeah, and you can, obviously, I turned my audio off, but I'm sure that Nicholson is as pleased as anyone as that happened, but right now he is in hot pursuit trying to catch back up to Hunter.
Not certain who that second truck was. It might have been
the 29.
87. Or was it the 29? And I think the other one might have been the 87 of Kyle Hall. Might have been that other truck that was spun out on driver's right.
Let me see here. Actually, it was Rod Fajnev. Looks like he got a little bit of help from Kyle Hall, ended up spinning and ended up staying around the front of the track. And all three of them just kind of stayed there, and I don't know what Rod's doing, but obviously that is a terrible spot for him to catch, and props to Hunter Madalinas for getting through that, but obviously kind of Nathan Nicholson got the short end of the stick.
Just proof that it doesn't matter where you're running position-wise on the racetrack, nobody is safe, especially when you then have the lead lap trucks integrated with the drivers that are being put off the lead lap, as this is a good three-way battle. Just outside the top 5, Brandon Barkowski, Steven Sims, and Will Barbagelata, they're only separated by about 5 truck lengths here heading down to turn 9.
Absolutely, that's the thing where as long as you can stay consistent and still have that same growth, that's pretty much the main focus here, where, hey, I may not be able to catch this guy right now, but give me like 5 laps and I'll be able to pass him.
Now, one thing I'm a little bit curious about, and maybe you can help me out with this, when I think of trucks, it's like you're driving a brick. If you want to get it to stop, it'll stop, but maybe not as soon as you would like it to. When I saw that we were coming to a street course, as I pointed out, that has those corners with the tire barriers there, I was really worried that these guys, they were going to carry too much speed into the corners, not be able to get these things slowed down, and we'd maybe see the tire barrier claim a number of our race leaders. That has not really been the case. If anything, it's just been drivers looping it off of these turns. Is it just in my imagination, or are these trucks actually really hard to stop, hard to slow down at a track like this?
These trucks are very hard to kind of slow down. However, they have a few tools at their disposal, obviously using brake bias, trying to shift around the brake bias, hope for the best, kind of get your best entry to the corner, but also they can use something that, obviously, Seth, I don't think you're that familiar in NR with being able to do this, but engine braking. We can aggressively downshift and use engine braking, but it's always managing between wheel hop and obviously slowing down the car.
It's definitely a term that I've heard, but never put into use.
I mean, I've done it in NR. You just lose a few gears.
Yes. we call it money shifting for keyboarders. Hunter Madalinas back under fire. Nice job there by Nathan Nicholson after we saw him have that contact. Spun out Nathan Jump. Lost that ground to Madalinas. He's back on the bumper. Almost had contact again between those two. Last time by through turn 11. So second place runner-up battle. It's back on hot and heavy, albeit over 6 seconds behind Ashton Lawson.
And that's a big thing where, obviously, if I'm Nathan Nicholson, if I'm someone who's in Nathan Nicholson's ear, I'd be telling him, please, just take it one step at a time. Just breathe. Just make sure you're not trying to push and force something. Obviously, it's kind of hard. If you're the driver, I would understandably be in that same scenario where it's, man, I was 3 seconds away from the leader. Something stupid happened. I am now 6 seconds away from the leader. I mean, I need to go.
Talk about Nicholson dialing it back. I mean, does he have to, though? Because he got that victory last week at Rockingham. He comes into this race as the points leader, and as you mentioned, you just have to, with the victory, stay inside the top 20 in the points. So he could maybe be a little bit more aggressive here today than he would if he came in with a 0 in the win column.
I really don't think it's a have to. I think it's really just a kind of a sentiment of pride. I mean, obviously, he came from last season not really having that great of success to this season where, I mean, right now he is considered one of the heavy favorites right now. And again, just proving it to yourself and being able to go into the playoffs as the regular season champion, just having that momentum carrying you.
Tyler McClellan just lost a spot to Jake Miller. Jake right now has picked up a lot of spots since the start, 6 spots up from his 16th starting position. The truck ahead of him, Gavin Fitzgerald, is up 8 spots after he started this race from 17th and almost overdrove turn 11 there, as did Tyler McClellan in the 95. If you're looking at the driver that's gained the most spots since the start of this race, though, Nick Martin, right now inside the top 20 in the 18th position. He started all the way back in 34th, so he has moved up 16 spots since the drop of the green flag.
That's the thing where you don't always have to start up front to get a good finish. However, it does make it a lot easier sometimes to start up front than it does to start in the back. They are 3 wide with Nick Martin at the moment.
Right down that long straight there, headed for turn 1. That was, I believe...
Oh, car in the barrier, turn 1.
And I believe that's Aaron McEastern. He's going to get it refired and drive away. Eastern already a lap down, 28th position. Oh, what just happened? Oh, never mind. I thought the Madalenas just spun. He actually faked me out and turned hard right for pit road. I thought that thing was going around. I thought maybe there was like some kind of a mechanical problem or something going on with his rig, but nope, he's just making a late dart onto pit road here from the 2nd spot.
Honestly, I kind of like this move out of Madalenas where right now, I mean, obviously it was quite evident with Nathan Nicholson being right on his bumper. He was even hitting him out of turn 11. Obviously, right now, Nathan is faster than you. So if he's faster than you, try to out-strategy him. If you can undercut him by maybe a lap or 2, get fresh tires, hopefully use that advantage and kind of carry yourself forward. Hey, we can still kind of hang on to this top 3 spot. Maybe we can kind of strategy our way into possibly winning this thing.
Martin has also come down pit road at this time, so as we are on to lap 16, I would say we're probably looking at a 2-stop race here. Maybe kind of split this thing into thirds, unless it could go further and we have maybe 2-stop strategy and a 1-stop strategy. We'll have to wait and see, as I'm not exactly certain what the fuel tank is exactly capacity-wise for how far these guys could go. Steve Sims just got by Brandon Barkowski to crack the top 5 for the first time today.
And kind of looking back at this pack, I mean, look at Barb. Barb's had an up and down race. He was involved in one of the first incidents of the day, and he's just kind of hanging tough in 7th.
Looking ahead there at Brandon Barkowski. Looks to put the pressure on him here, going through turn 9 into turn 10. Well, he broke really early there going into turn 10, backed way off. I wonder if maybe he decided that he wasn't going to get involved in that through the tight turn 11. He might actually be heading for pit road this lap. Let's see. Nope, apparently not.
Oh, another spinner in turn 8. Looks like that was a 17 of Sam Hoff. Man, he just lost about 5 positions out of that, and that just shows you how little of a mistake can lose you so much time.
Our race leader is in, Ashton Lawson, and we're looking at the 21 of RJ Williams, who it looked like he pulled up too short into his pit box, and it took him a little bit of time to get that truck back in gear to pull forward and get into his stall, so that's going to cost him some very valuable time. RJ was running pretty much the entirety of the first third of this race in the 4th position.
Yeah, that's the thing where when you pull into your pit box, you expect it to be one and done. So usually when you kind of pull in and it says, hey, back up, or hey, go forward, we can't service you, it's one of those moments shock of, okay, I need to get back in gear, or hey, I'm currently in 2nd, I pulled in my pit box, I need to shift down to 1st, I need to shift to reverse. Just one of those things where it catches you off guard for just a second, but it's just enough to lose you time.
Gonna have have to double check on this. I'm not certain if Ashton Lawson was able to take service. He might have missed his pit stall. I don't know if it's just a scoring error on my end, but I do not see him spending any time in his stall. Also on pit road that time was Michael Sensi, Steve McLean, Eric Kemp, Christopher Heller. Heller's got an extended stop there in that 11 truck, so it looks like either a penalty or maybe repairing some damage from what's happened in the first 18 laps. It's turned the race lead over now to last week's winner, Nathan Nicholson.
I'm seeing Hunter Madalinas trying to get through traffic, and really, he was really struggling with the 45. The big thing when you take tires and you really come back from these pit stops is you want to maximize the new tires, you want to maximize any clean air you can get. But the big issue is you're also dealing with guys who, hey, they may be off strategy, or hey, they may be slower, or maybe not have as good as stuff as you right now because you just came off pit road. So it's trying to manage that but still gain time.
It's Gavin Fitzgerald in the 14, right ahead of Hunter Madalinas. This is a battle for position, P7. Fitzgerald is yet to come to pit road. Madalinas has already been on pit lane. Update on Ashton Lawson, it was a scoring error on my part. He has indeed come down pit road, did take service. He merged back out in the 6th position, so that gives you an idea.
Oh, Barkowski and Barkowski wreck.
That's for P4. Pointed back the right direction now, but you can see the visible damage on the left front of the 27 and the right front of the 25.
Honestly, looking at that, that was more a disagreement of space. I mean, Brandon Barkowski slowed up for Kyle Hall hitting the wall, and it just looked like Barb kind of got impatient. And then, and Barkowski got back on the gas and he ended up almost pretty much wrecking in the Barb. At that point, I think Barb was kind of done and said, hey, get out of my way.
I don't understand what you mean about there being a disagreement of space. There's plenty of space for everybody here, right?
There's plenty of space in Long Beach.
Oh, yeah. Space is inoptimal here. But just going back to what I was going to say there, Ashton Lawson, Hunter Madalinas, they've come down pit road, they've taken service, they're right now running in 6th and 7th. That gives you an idea of just how much space they were putting between themselves and the rest of the field, that they were able to come down into green flag conditions and still re-emerge with drivers up inside of the top 10. The same will probably be able to be said for this 99 of Nathan Nicholson eventually when he comes down pit road.
Yeah, so I'm not a pit strategy guru. I don't exactly study this, but I'm thinking I kind of like. I originally liked Hunter Madalina's strategy of pitting early and then kind of taking the fresh tires and trying to see what you can do with that. But I've noticed Ashton Lawson, even after the pit stop, he's still maintaining that good sizable gap. And with the fresher tires, he should be able to drive away more now. So I'm kind of leaning towards Ashton here.
Yeah, right now, looks like it's about 6.5 seconds between Madalinas and Ashton Lawson, who just moved up into the 5th position. Roughly the same interval that it was prior to Lawson coming down pit road, and Madalinas as well, as Lawson's going to pick up another spot there, getting around Will Barbagelata. Just saw moments ago Brandon Barkowski come down pit lane from where he was running, which I think at the time was 6th position. So we're starting to see more and more drivers from the top 10 in the early going coming down to the attention of their crews. We're still waiting for Nicholson, Sims, Barbagelata, Fitzgerald, and Miller of drivers up here inside of the top 7.
Looking through the field here, see if I can find the man of the hour, Kyle Short. Normally he's up here talking with Seth, a much better analyst than I. He decided he wanted to take the wheel this week in the 36. He is running a cool 17th. Think it was worth it?
No, I mean, so far, still in one piece. He is a lap down currently in that 17th position, but I mean, the engine's still running. The truck still looks reasonably in one solid piece, and getting some experience out here too. I mean, this is, as we said when we came on the air, this is unique. This is a combination you would not necessarily put together. Trucks at a street course as tight as Long Beach, and so there's probably a lot of drivers that got into the trucks here this evening, not expecting to win, but just going to go out there log laps to see just exactly what it's like to drive a truck here. I mean, we even heard last week from Nathan Nicholson, who's now on pit road, in post-race interviews, asked him, are you looking forward to the upcoming road course race at Long Beach? And he said, not really. This is a guy who dominated Watkins Glen last year. So if you've got a road course ringer that has some hesitancies of how the trucks are going to handle at a street course, no doubt curiosity had to be piqued all the way through the field for every driver.
And see, that's what really brought it to lure. I mean, here's the thing. Yes, it is a road course, and typically your usual suspects are up here for road course ringers, but obviously it's a new track. It's something that people normally don't run in these cars, and some of the open wheel guys or some of the endurance guys, they know this track. They want to run this track. So, hey, more power to them. And it kind of brings some new faces where, I mean, Steven Sims, he's up here leading this currently, again, by virtue of pit strategy. But nevertheless, it kind of brings some new faces up here trying to lead some laps, trying to make their mark.
Yeah, we saw Steven Sims last week at Rockingham. Didn't have the best of finishes, outside the top 15 in the 17th position. That was, however, from a 37th position starting spot. Here today, though, definitely been a guy up inside the top 10 the entirety of this race. Qualified in 7th place, right now leading. And he's only got one start this season, 32nd in points. We talked about early on in the season, good finishes will gain you multiple positions in the standings. So looking good right now for driver number 6. It's interesting, too. I was looking coming into this race. A lot of people will know that many leagues use their scoring systems through a sim racer hub, and when they do that, a lot of the statistics as Sims, four-wheel slide there through turn 2, maybe stopping to gaze at that beautiful fountain or something. But a lot of times the statistics are then stored in the sim racer hub database. And coming into this race, that's Matthew Durr, just behind the race leader going around.
Oh, he's in the racing line.
Yikes. Everybody was able to get by, unfortunately.
Oh, look at the huge traffic jam behind him.
Oh, got Madalitas in that mix. There's Kyle Short there. That's for position between him and the 2. It's also Barkowski in the 27. But 2 drivers have in a specific car, which ends up being, if I remember correctly, the Audi R8 LMS, have the fastest laps here at Long Beach. They are Tyler McClellan has the fastest lap here overall of that particular car, and right behind him by maybe about a 1/10 of a second, Nathan Nicholson. We've seen Nicholson up front all day long. I've been keeping my eye on that 95 of McClellan. He's kind of hovered between 10th to 15th in this one. A little surprised that since he has that much speed in other cars when he comes to this particular course, that we haven't seen him any closer to the front of the field.
True, and we see Steven Sims and William Barkowski come down to pit road. So right now we're effectively cycled back out. So now we can kind of get a good grasp on who has gained and who has lost what. Right now, Hunter Madalitas kind of lost about a second or so on Ashton Lawson. Really, I think due to some of the lap traffic in front of him, but also he really didn't have a chance to take advantage of those new tires, and he's caught back in traffic. By Ashton Lawson, I mean, he has basically had smooth sailing in front of him. He has found an open pocket where he can kind of stretch his legs a little bit, gain some time.
Yeah, he's got a truck up ahead of him there that he'll have to deal with in the next lap or so as we ride on board with him. And another thing that we don't really consider about this particular street course is it's not exactly smooth. I mean, we're watching right now. That car is dipping up, that car is dipping down. There's probably some potholes along the area here, so it's not exactly a smooth ride.
Realistically, what Hunter Madalitas' pit strategy did is it kind of let us put something in perspective. Madalitas was one of the first on pit road, or really one of the first leaders on pit road. He came down, he ended up pretty much having a net, maybe gain/lost of 2 seconds. Looking at Nathan Nicholson, he stayed out later than most. He ended up having about a 3-second gap to Hunter Madalitas. So definitely it looks like the shortcut or undercutting is working for pitting. But the big problem is how long you're able to maintain that speed and then the traffic. Really, I think the more important option rather than pitting is just trying to look for clean air, where if you're someplace like Hunter Madalitas was, kind of stuck behind a bunch of cars, that may be your optimal time to pit, hopefully get into a clean pocket of air and then just pretty much just fly.
We have only one more driver that is yet to come to pit road to have completed the cycle green flag pit stops. Looks like he just dove it onto pit lane entry. That was Jake Miller from the 6th position. And like we thought, we ended up having two varying strategies. We had drivers that did the 2-stop that came in between laps 15 to lap 16. And then we got drivers that are going to be on the 1-stop. They came down around the halfway point between laps 22 to 23. Whoa, race, or to make that second place, we got two spinners there on that straight. That's Steve McLean in the 75. The other, I believe, was the 17 of Sam Hoff. So you had one spinning left, one spinning right in front of your second place driver, Madalinas.
And I will say, Steve has not had a fun night tonight. It has been a night of trial and error, and it hasn't been for any lack of his own. I mean, he has been trying, and same thing for Samuel Hoff. He has been struggling tonight. And again, they're not two of our stronger road course racers here in the Great Lakes Racing League. But obviously, given the best effort, and again, all you can ask for him is just best effort.
Right now, Hoff is in the 20th position, McLean in 18th, both of them off the lead lap. So we are more than halfway through this race. A couple of things to update you on. Christopher Heller, he has still been on pit road for the last 7-8 laps, as he had an extended stay on pit road. They're continuing to repair damage. He had a great run last week at Rockingham, up 7 spots to 16th in points. He may lose those 7 spots after tonight. We also were talking about the progress that Nick Martin was making through the field, and it looks like about 8 laps ago he brought his truck down pit lane and brought it to the garage area. So not certain what exactly happened to the driver of the 42, but a tough break there, because looked like he had a truck that was fast enough to maybe finish up inside of the top 15, maybe even snag a top 10 if more of our front runners ran into trouble in the second half of this race.
Really just momentum shifts. And that really puts our biggest, I guess, game at the moment is Austin Moore being able to come all the way back from the 29th position currently to the 12th position now. That's it. How do you keep your nose clean at a road course race that has such tightest corners as this?
The answer to that is you don't. I've been looking at all the trucks through the field, and in some way, shape, or form, they're all sporting damage. It's either on the front, some of them have had some side damage, some of them had some back bumper damage. You know, if the engine's running, that's fine. It doesn't have to win a beauty contest, just as long as the engine's running at full capacity.
I mean, built for tough, huh?
You're right. You're absolutely right. You had an exchange right there for 10th. Gavin Fitzgerald getting around Michael Sensi to move him up to P10. He is one of 13 drivers right now that are on the lead lap, as Elliot Henderson just went a lap down moments ago to race leader Ashton Lawson, and not that far ahead. Next on the hit list would be Jake Miller in the 4. He's about 15 seconds, I believe, ahead of the race leader in the 24 truck that so far has not put a wheel wrong. He has dominated this race from the start. He has led every lap but I believe 3, which were led by Nathan Nicholson when the green flag pit stop cycle was taking place.
You know, there's a guy I haven't really brought up tonight, and I've been worried about kind of bringing him up because that's usually when the commentator's course strikes. But Gavin Fitzgerald, he's been one of those guys who's been kind of like middle of the pack. Haven't really been doing anything too flashy, but hasn't really been sliding and hitting things constantly. Honestly, he looks kind of in his element. He looks comfortable. It's not that he looks fast. It's not that he's pushing the limits. But when he slides, he looks like he's in control of it. It doesn't look wrecking loose. I think this is one of those tracks where he's going to be perfectly happy getting a top 10 here.
Right now, he is about 15 seconds behind his next battle for position, which would be Will Barbagelata in the 27. Things are rather spread out right now. I think the closest battle inside of your top 10 would be for second place, and even that's a full second in separation between Nathan Nicholson and Hunter Madalinas.
Yeah, and obviously with Nathan Nicholson getting past Hunter Madalinas, I'd be kind of wondering what is the next pit stop from here, or if Nicholson's going to try and make it to the end on the 1 stop. I don't know what the fuel mileage numbers is. I don't really know how far he can make it at the moment. Same thing with Hunter Madalinas. I think he kind of pigeonholed himself into that 2 stop. So if Hunter Madalinas, is those new tires really going to help you hopefully make a charge for second and first.
Bring up a great point there with the fact that Nathan Nicholson went with the potential one-stop strategy, came to pit road at the halfway point. Ashton Lawson, he came to pit road back on the completion of lap 15, splitting this race into thirds. He will more than likely make one more stop somewhere in the next 3 to 4 laps. The gap right now is 6 seconds from Ashton Lawson back to Nathan Nicholson. I would assume that those 6 seconds can easily be made up and Nicholson can inherit the race lead from Lawson. The roles are going to change then in the final 15 laps of this race. The hunter will end up becoming the hunted in the case of Nicholson to Lawson. Just how important do you think the fresh tires are going to be here, and how many laps will their importance come into play?
Now, while I don't know the exact tire wear, I can make some educated guesses. Obviously, looking at how some of the trucks are driving, obviously we're sliding those tires around a lot. They are really trying for traction at the corners. I'd take a gander that.
Oh! Christopher Heller around right in front of the leader. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. I'd take a good guess that these tires are probably screaming at the end of the run, so they'd love a new pair. And obviously, with it being a little bit cooler, it will be a little bit slower for maybe about a lap while we come up to the temp. But after that, they should be more than grippy. Obviously, looking at the track temp as well, track temp is 115 degrees. It is hot and slick. That's it. I think I would want new tires more than anything.
Well, Ashton Lawson, talk about a driver that's trying to get some momentum back. Last week, didn't have the best of performances at Rockingham. Dropped 14 spots in the standings, tied for 16th coming into this one. Would love to head into Bristol with a win in his hip pocket. And, that's another thing, too. If you were a road course ringer coming to a street course like this, knowing that Bristol is on the horizon, talk about another track where it's very unpredictable of what's going to happen with everybody in close proximity. You certainly would have had this circled on your calendar as a place that you want to go out, you want to get that victory, have that golden ticket into the playoffs, and then just head into Bristol, kind of be able to kick back, and whatever happens, happens, because you know that you've already got that victory that you were looking for.
I mean, just listen to our schedule coming up. I mean, obviously, you mentioned you have Bristol next week. That is a monster in itself. We got 200 laps around Bristol. Then we go on the Twin Ring Motegi, a track that, honestly, I don't think any of these drivers know. Or if they do, it's very limited and maybe in a different car. I'd say I could really count hands through the field of who may have raced on that track before, who's familiar with it. Then we go on to old reliable, everyone's knowing Charlotte Motor Speedway, but that is almost a super speedway in these trucks. I mean, it is almost full throttle. Then we go on to Canada, good old Canada, where we go to Montreal, a track that, I mean, last been on the NASCAR schedule in, I think, 2012. And a lot of tracks where, yes, there's been a lot of people who've ran it, but not in trucks, most likely. Then going on to Five Flags. Five Flags is a heavily tight track. That is going to be almost Rockingham 2.0, I could tell. Then we're off for Labor Day, and it's Texas Motor Speedway, and that's it. That is how you get into the chase. That is tough. And right now, you need to be trying to get the best finishes that you can in a short amount of time that you can, because you don't know when that bad finish is coming.
Only one road course on the schedule last season, 3 of them this season. You mentioned about Circuit Gilles Villeneuve up in Montreal. We also, in the playoffs, have Watkins Glen making its return to the schedule. You saw Ashton Lawson from the lead come down pit road. That is regularly scheduled. That's his final pit stop of the day. Nicholson's going to try and make it to the checkered flag on the tires and the fuel that he has. But, yeah, obviously a little bit more road course oriented here, a little bit heavier for the road course drivers to have some opportunities at checkered flags. And I'll tell you what, if we were going to give a shout out to a driver here today, take a look at this battle going on for 14th place. You got Elliot Henderson there, and that's Brent Kincott in the 15th position. You remember Brent Kincott, the guy that spun around there at the drop of the green flag in the front straightaway, turn 1, lap 1? Yeah, he's up inside the top 15 now. So, if you don't end up tearing the truck up, if you're going to have an issue at a road course where it's unlikely a full course yellow is going to come out to save you, have it early and have that entire remaining part of the race to be able to mount a recovery.
Looks like we got a stop truck, Michael Barbagelata, in the entry of 2. I don't know if he's stopping, trying to let people by, but that is a bad place to stop.
He stopped at the crosswalk in case pedestrians were going by.
Oh my god.
I was watching as Nathan Nicholson's actually on pit road. This is surprising. Now, we had him pegged as one of the drivers that probably was going to go the rest of the way, but is this... Okay, here's a theory. Because he was closing in, even though he had about 5 left first year tires, he was closing in on Ashton Lawson, had it down to about 4.5 seconds. Does he feel he has a truck fast enough to get up there to Ashton Lawson on equal footing of grip in those Goodyears?
I don't know. I personally wouldn't have done it. But I mean, look at Ashton Lawson. He is within sight of Nathan Nicholson. Right now, all Nathan Nicholson has to do is get past Anderson Brown, and right there, that is his challenge. I don't know if I would have done it, but honestly, if he feels that's his best shot, 100% try it.
Got a lot of drivers on pit road this lap. Barkowski's in, Tyler McClellan's in, RJ Williams has come down pit road, turns the lead over to Hunter Madalinas in the 9. This is the first lap that he's going to lead here today. Remember, he was behind Nathan Nicholson when Nicholson inherited the lead from Ashton Lawson, so he's going to get himself a bonus point for a lap led. Zachary Henry also will be on pit road momentarily. These are two drivers that could not make it the rest of the way on fuel. That then throws out the big question mark about this guy, Steven Sims. He was one of the drivers that appeared to be on the one-stop strategy, but look who's just behind him there as he heads through turn 10, coming out of turn 9. That's Ashton Lawson on the fresh tires.
I think Steven Sims may be a coin flip wherever he can make it. I don't think he personally can. But hey, I mean, he made it that far. I mean, realistically, he made it about 26 laps before he had to pit the first time. So hey, even if he hangs on, that could be a good top 3 finish for him.
A couple of drivers coming into this race that were doing really well in the point standings, and they're doing pretty decently here tonight as well to try and maintain their position in the points heading into Bristol. Brandon Barkowski, he's been running up inside of the top 10 for most of the day. He came into this race 4th in points. We know Nathan Nicholson, obviously.
Man, I just noticed that with Ashton Lawson, he is right behind one of the teammates of Nathan Nicholson. I mean, I would be jumping up and down, screaming to my teammate, hey, try to hold him up the best you can. Give me a shot at him. I'd say, whatever you do, just give me a shot.
I think that was Christopher Heller that has been really struggling here today. 12 laps down, last truck running in the 29th position.
I'd say at this point, teammates could be your best opportunity. And honestly, I think Heller did the best he could because he brought Ashton back in the striking distance for Nathan.
It's about half a second right now between Ashton Lawson and Nathan Nicholson. See if that gap's going to close up any more.
Hey, Seth,
right
remember
now,
what I told you about turn 11, eh?
Yeah, there it is.
That may be a decider of just give you a little bit extra tap to get through that corner, and oh, looks like I'm a leader now.
Right now, you've got your top 3 all on the same straight. Steven Sims, questionable on whether he'll come down pit road at the end of this thing or if he's just going to try and hang on with what he's got. Your battle for the race lead, race win may be going on between the 2nd and 3rd place drivers, the 24 of Lawson, the 99 of Nicholson. And to your point there, through turn 11, how close they were, we saw in the early stages of this race, that's where Nicholson through 9, 10, and 11 was so good. He'd get right up to the back bumper of Hunter Madalinas and almost push him through that final turn 11. So he really is good at getting into that particular braking zone. The question is, though, will there be contact between him and the 24 when he eventually tries to make
Sims isn't making it easy.
Oh, man, swing it high, wide, and handsome around that corner there for Lawson to take the lead back from the 6. And I think he had a tougher time getting around Sims than Nicholson did.
And that's the thing where Sims, honestly, he is just trying the best he can. It would have been an absolute masterclass if Sims could have held them off for 10 laps on his older tires. But honestly, that is not a realistic expectation. Right now, he is fighting to stay in the top 3. So his real threat is Hunter Madalinas, who just came in about 1 or 2 laps ago. He's got about a 10-second gap on Hunter Madalinas. He needs to stay ahead of him.
So now if you're Ashton Lawson, this is the first time today you've had a truck for position filling up your rearview mirror, you've kind of been able to keep your eyes out the windshield, make your way through lap traffic. Now your focus has been completely diverted.
Spinner! That's a managed to be out of the way, but just like you were saying, this is the point where Nathan, right now, he does not have to push. He does not have to try and beat Ashton Lawson here. And the reason why is his presence is just scaring Ashton alone. He doesn't have to really push. He just needs to keep hanging with him. And right now, just play mind games. When it gets about within 5 to go, that's when I'd really start aggressively pushing, trying to get by him.
One of McErkin getting out of the way there. There's the 92 of Michael Sensi. He was the last truck on the lead lap. He'll now be the first truck 1 lap down, but yielding there to the race leaders. Hopefully we'll see more of that as there's more trucks just up ahead of these guys.
I don't know if you noticed, but the last lap, Ashton Lawson and Nathan Nicholson turned the exact same lap time. Or sorry,
Wow.
Their best lap is the exact same lap time, a 1:24.835.
How about that? Well, they look on equal footing, at least for the moment. Oh my gosh.
He just letting him know he's there. He's just letting him know he's there.
Kind of looks like a choo-choo train there. I think they both got coupled together.
I mean, here's the thing. We know Nathan Nicholson's not a guy who's afraid to use the bumper. So, I mean, that has to be on Ashton's mind of saying, hey, I know he's willing to use it. I just have to try my best to get away from him and hope he makes a mistake.
Here's the thing that, kind of foreshadowing later on in the season, if you're Nathan Nicholson, you've already got a victory this season. Lawson's looking for his first. If Nicholson's going to make this pass, he's got to either have Ashton make a mistake or he's got to make it clean, because in my mind, you get into that 24, you spin him around with a potentially dirty move. Yeah, you head into the playoffs with at least 2 victories, but pretty certain that, they say that racers have memories like elephants. Ashton Lawson will remember that, and he might get the 99 back when it matters the most in the playoffs. So, one might not think that a race three events into the schedule could have playoff implications just based off of a move for a victory, but I beg to differ.
Yeah, there's a guy on a Dale Earnhardt car who has the same sentiment towards me, but, I mean, think about that. I mean, Ashton Lawson's no pushover. And realistically, if you bump him now, he is fast enough to make you pay for it later. So I'd be a little bit concerned. Obviously, bumping him out of the way for a win is fine. Dumping him out of the way for a win, that's probably not going to fly later in the season. But again, just know that whatever you do to him is probably going to end up coming around later on.
James Shiflett has taken his 28 to the garage area, so that gives us officially 8 drivers that are not currently on the racetrack, 28 survivors still out there, 13 of them on the lead lap, and you just saw there moments ago, that was Sam Hoff in the 17 moving out of the way of the race leaders. He's now the first truck 2 laps down in 20th place. This battle going on, we're going to stay with it because it's for the race lead, but there's also a good battle going on for the 5th position. Gavin Fitzgerald has his hands full with Will Barbagelata in the 27.
I don't know if Gavin is trying that one-stop strategy. I think he can make it to the end without stopping, but he's kind of in that same boat where Barbagelata, he was one of those guys who definitely pit a little bit. Actually, he pit on the same cycle of Gavin Fitzgerald, so really we're just fighting with the same stuff.
Right behind them, you got the 2 of Matthew Durr. He is 1 lap down, not for position with these 2 drivers, so may come down here between
Nicholson's
Fitzgerald
making that charge.
Between Barbagelata and Fitzgerald as to who hits their marks and who saves their tires. Nicholson, he tried really hard there to cut that corner as tight as he could to the rumble strip, but the rear tires just didn't take. That's another thing too. How long can Nicholson wait to be able to make a move? Because the grip is obviously going away, as I think Elliot Henderson had a moment there. Oh, there's another truck facing the wrong way.
Oh,
no! Look out, leaders!
And that was the opening that Nathan Nicholson was looking for. And that's a big thing where you hit on it perfectly. With how Nathan's driving, he cannot keep this up. Right now, he knows that his time is ending really short because Ashton's pushing, but he's not pushing to the same extent Nathan is. So looking at that, he knows his time is running short, and he pretty much goes through turns 1 and 5 perfectly clean. He really gains time there more than any other driver. And then through 6 through 8, he is next to terrible. Where, I mean, he can really kind of maintain gap, but he can't gain. Then going past that in the 9 through 11, that's where his kind of bread and butter is. And then out of 11, he just kind of loses it all and we reset.
With a slight difference of a few seconds, it was almost Goodwin Steven Sims with that spin out there into turn 1. Speaking of Sims, he actually just lost the 3rd spot to Hunter Madalinas, so you know, Sims trying to hang on there on those old tires, at least for the moment.
Nicholson gave him a little bit of a love tap. They're side by side.
Boy. And they're going to keep this side-by-side battle, I'm pretty sure, up, down, into turn 1. Oh, this is going to be interesting to see who's going to... Oh, little game of chicken, little side drafting, little door banging. Who gives?
I have to say the love is not lost. Oh!
Oh, no! Almost hooked the 24 to Nicholson. It's getting good here with less than 10 to go. Still nose to tail through the fountain. Turn 2, he gets into the 24 again, sends him slideways into 3.
I think Nicholson thinks Ashton hit him, and he puts him straight in the fence.
Into the fence. That wasn't even tire barrier. That was concrete wall for the 24. And now he's got a lot of damage there on that left front. Even worse, he's losing ground. 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 seconds to Nathan Nicholson.
Honestly, there's a little bit of gap whack in there, but I mean, I'd say that's a bit overly aggressive. Like I said,
Especially with 8 to go.
That's kind of interpret it as you will. I'm sure Ashton will interpret it his way and Nathan will interpret it his. But that's definitely one of those things where that was not the desirable outcome, especially knowing that later in the season, both of them are probably going to be fighting for this championship.
For sure. The gap now 1.6 seconds, so that gives us the opportunity to drop back here to the three-way battle for 5th. Gavin Fitzgerald still has Will Barbagelata.
By the way,
but
Ashton Lawson's not out of his thing. He's not out of his thing just yet.
The gap closed up a little bit there. We'll see
he's
if
trying.
Ashton Lawson can get up to him once again. If he can, he can at least get within striking distance. Who knows what's going to happen in the final 7 circuits.
I mean, when the guy uses a parking brake, I mean, obviously that's going to come right back at him. I'd be a little bit concerned if he can actually catch back up to him. And I think Elliot Henderson, I don't know if he may be holding him up a little bit. I think he knows what's going on.
Well, I'm wondering about, we've got Ashton Lawson out of Spectrum Racing, and he's got a few teammates in the field here tonight, RJ Williams, Eric Kemp. So, if we end up having the 99 catch up to any of those drivers, I'm pretty certain that they'll do the best they can to try and keep the 99 at bay and give their teammate in the 24 a chance to get back up here.
Woo. I'd say he was really trying to get by Elliot. He was trying to put his...
Oh, we got one of the tires back there. Sam Hall from the 17. His struggles at Long Beach continue.
I'd say he's trying his best, but honestly, that truck looks amazing for how much it's been hit.
You're right. He's been in 3-4 different incidents, but that truck looks pretty pristine. He just nosed it into the tires, but you'd hardly know that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks extremely clean for what it is, and it's kind of surprising. Oh, Gavin Fitzgerald almost lost it out of 5, or almost lost it out of 6. William Barbagelata is right on him.
And add Zach Henry into this battle as well. These guys have been slipping and sliding. I think the left rear panel of Barbagelata just clipped the tires, and now Henry.
Marvin's just trying his best to fend them all off.
Wow. Here comes Henry there in the 12. He's gotten around the 27 for 6th. He wants to break back up into the top 5 here in the closing stages. Gavin Fitzgerald is the one between him and that 5th position.
That's it. I feel like if you have a guy who's like literally the kind of definition of dig deep, it would be William Barbagelata. You tell that man dig deep, he digs deep.
Get everything out of that truck you possibly can. There's Jake Miller back there at the head of that straight. He is right now in the 8th position. RJ Williams in 9th, and Brett Kingcott is in the 10th position. Unbelievable after he was the first incident of the day at the immediate drop of the green flag. The gap, Matt, has opened up again now. It was what, 1.4, I think, when Lawson was closing in. I don't know if he made a mistake, if that damage is finally starting to affect him or what, but Nicholson's opened it up to now over 3 seconds.
I mean, I think it may be actually damage at the end of it because, again, these trucks have an idling RPM of 1180, and again, he did not hit tire barrier, he hit straight concrete. And yes, that does usually kind of bounce off the car a little bit, but I'd be worried about engine damage and any suspension work for that car. So obviously, I think he's just kind of hanging in there for if anything happens to Nicholson, he is ready to pounce.
Got some traffic up ahead here for Nicholson to have to deal with. Can't tell exactly which truck that was.
Oh, Elliot Henderson spins in one. Did a really cool loop, too.
Had that little bit of runoff area there. Zachary Henry just got around Gavin Fitzgerald for the 5th position.
You know, I'm wondering how that 76 is going to treat that 99. Oh, let's him on by.
Yeah, going to let him on by. Does Anderson Bowen. You've also got up ahead, I think that's the 22 of Michael Barbagelata.
He has had a rough night tonight.
To deal with.
he has had a rough night, but no lack of trying.
Yeah,
A+ for effort.
Yeah, that sun-kissed Ford has been through the ringer here, or through the squeezer, I guess we could say, through the juicer.
Maybe not. I maybe give Sam Hoffer a run for his money about how good that car looks, despite how many incidents it's been in.
Yeah, broadcast colleague Kyle Short still running. Currently in the 19th position, last truck 1 lap down.
I'd say Kyle is, looks like he's taking a little bit more damage. Don't know if that's helping him or not. Looked at that bumper has been used a bit.
There's a couple of drivers that, you know, they're not going to be leaving with a finish that will jump up front and center in our finishing results, but when you consider the day they've had, doing a very good job of soldiering on. Already mentioned about Brent Kincott. How about Michael Sensi? We saw him spun around in the early stages, right now in 13th. Elliot Henderson, he was around a couple of times, most recently over there in turn 1, but he's in 14th place. And Steve McLean, we've seen him around a couple of times, and Shane Neiswanger right now, they're in 17th and 18th spot. So that's a couple of guys.
Matalinas went around. He's around in turn 1.
And he was in a battle right then with Ashton.
Steven Sims is right there. Come on, Steven, go get it.
Steven trying to get that final spot on the podium as he's all over the back bumper of Matalinas. Now remember though, Matalinas has about 9 lap fresher tires than the 6.
He may have a little bit better tires here at the moment because Hunter lit them up trying to stay off that wall.
Well, you saw right there off that corner off of turn 5 how that thing almost snapped around on Madalena. So yeah, those tires are definitely heated up after that spin. The grip advantage, I think, has gone away.
Oh, and Hunter got a little bit loose in that corner.
Locked up that left front, he did, as I don't know if he was prepared for the corner or trying to get around that lap truck.
Man, they're having so much problem putting down power. It's a thing of Hunter's tires are definitely on fire right now, but Steven, right now, he has got his tires under control. They definitely are older. You can see it. But they're more manageable than Hunter's here at the moment.
Absolutely, as this battle for third going to continue on as we are at 3 laps to go. Sim's going to lose a little bit of ground there out of turn 11 as Madalinas ran it almost to the wall, got a nice exit down this front stretch. And when you heat those tires up, is there any way you can cool them down to be able to get grip back?
Obviously, yes, you can cool them down. They will take just a moment. You kind of have to drive them a little bit easier. Let them cool down. Don't drive as deep into the corner. Basically, don't battle as much. You can drive within your limits, but don't drive much past that. It will take a couple of laps, but right now you're seeing the lap difference in between Hunter Madalinas and Steven Sims tires because it looks like Hunter's got him a little bit more in control.
Nathan Nicholson making a pass there on the 49 of Shane Neiswanger, and that's a very important pass because that means that he is clear of traffic. I don't see anybody ahead of 99. He'll be coming around at 2 laps to go, so no better feeling when you're the race leader in a tight corner racetrack like this, knowing that pretty much now all you got to do is hit your marks to get that checkered flag.
Yeah, really, it's just you're fighting yourself here, so you need to pace yourself. You need to pace really your lap times. You're not trying to hot lap it here. Right now, it doesn't look like Ashton Lawson's really catching up to you. You can afford to back off just a little bit. Where, hey, you got a comfortable hole in front of you. You're not trying to catch anyone. You don't need to stretch your legs.
Come Back to Nicholson when he takes the white flag. Let's follow this battle. 6th, 7th, and 8th. Fitzgerald and Barkowski still going at it, but now added Jake Miller as the third party into this mix.
Miller's been really quiet today, and it's kind of
has.
surprising because he's not a guy who's really known for his road course talents, but he's always been a guy who's been okay at road courses. He's been there. He's been a guy who's been willing to fight for it, who has speed. Oh, Barkowski! Oh, man. Well.
Oh, and that's going to blockade up the entire exit of turn 11.
Well, it was a net loss and a net gain.
Well, it certainly helped Fitzgerald. Now he's firmly in control of 6th position.
Yeah.
RJ Williams, I think, back there was hoping that they'd stay locked up there off 11 a little bit longer. He could have gotten up there and maybe moved up to P7.
I'd say he's a little bit more in striking distance now, where he can kind of hopefully stretch and hope to get him. RJ has fresher tires. Man, Rod's car blends so much into that turn 1 wall. You just barely see him coming.
Nathan Nicholson crosses the start-finish line to receive the white flag last week. Picked up his first checkered flag on the season at Rockingham. Here today, got by the 24 of Ashton Lawson, maybe under dubious circumstances, but right now he is en route to picking up win number 2 in what's been a very young 3-race season.
You know what we call that, Seth? We call that the court of public opinion. The public's out on that one. We know what will happen.
Everyone's going to have an opinion. There's no doubt about that.
That's it. Everyone will have an opinion about it. Just
hey, what better courtroom to settle it at next week, Bristol?
The Coliseum.
All
1v40, yeah?
Oh, man. Well, no, 1v41, because I think the track is also going to have a say in it.
Oh, yeah. Man, 40 trucks in Bristol is going to be a nightmare.
Oh, my gosh. And you mentioned 200 laps there as well, so a lot of time for scores to be settled and maybe new rivalries to begin heading down the remainder of the regular season. But finally, through turn 11, turning for home, Nathan Nicholson, looking for back-to-back victories on the season. We knew he was going to be a road course ace coming into this one. He proves it again today. Checkered flag waves for Nathan Nicholson. He's the winner of the Patti Engineering Grand Prix of Long Beach. Ashton Lawson now going to come down and take second. And Hunter Madalinas, as he makes his way through turn 11, he's going to be completing the podium. Pretty much the 3 drivers that started in the podium finish in the podium. Not necessarily in where they started, but all 3 of them showing that they are very good when it comes to the lefts and rights.
This is going to be some interesting post-race interviews, huh?
You're absolutely right.
I'm interested to hear some opinions about this.
Steven Sims and Zachary Henry going to complete the top 5. We had 12 drivers finish on the lead lap here today in what was just going to call it a green flag race. I can't say clean and green because there's a lot of trucks out here that beg to differ. But we wondered coming in just how difficult was it going to be for these drivers, and for some of them, they looked like they were able to take to this track pretty well. Not to say they didn't have some struggles, but certainly not to the scale of others.
Absolutely, and again, I really don't see any car leaving here without a little bit of damage, and that's all right. I mean, again, realistically, having a 45 laps at a track that very few people have raced and practiced at, and coming out with, I mean, heck, 40 or really just like 25 people on the lead lap, that's incredible.
Burnout time for Nathan Nicholson. Second straight week he gets to do burnouts, and we're trying to see if he can do a burnout all the way from the start-finish line down here to that runoff of turn 1. It looked like the tires kept spinning. There we go.
Last time I saw a guy do that, he and his teammate got DQ'd from first and second.
Like Kyle Short there in the 36. I'd be looking to come up alongside for congratulations. Bristol next week. It'll be interesting to kind of find out the fallout from today's race. And Nathan Nicholson, with 2 victories here in the early season, looking like he could be in line, at least for right now, to be the #1 seed heading into the playoffs. But a lot can happen between now and Texas also.
100%. I just see Kyle Short he's trying to get our mobile cam there in the background.
Is he photobombing?
I think he's just trying to get the POV camera in the background so you can just watch him go through the track. Well, I think it's a little bit too late. I think he lost him. Oh, never mind.
No, well, speaking of losing it. Nice 360 there.
Well, I think it's about talking time, huh?
Yeah, let's look at the finishing results first. As you take a look at your top 10, pretty much your top 5 stayed the same for a good portion of this race.
I'm so proud of Steven Sims.
Yeah, what a great run for him there.
Man hung on, and he even had a shot at third.
I think he was the only driver that finished inside the top 5 that went with the one-stop strategy. Everybody else was on the two-stop. Gavin Fitzgerald was the second highest finisher on the one-stop strategy, holding on for 6th. We talked about how quiet Jake Miller was today. Saw the late contact between himself and Barkowski, but Barkowski's going to still get 8th. RJ Williams and Brent Kincott, they're going to complete the top 10. Then you go down here through the next couple of pages, and these are your survivors. Barkowski, he had some damage. Tyler McClellan there in 12th. Sensi, Henderson, Austin Moore. Good run there for Austin Moore in 15th position. A guy that came into this race tied for 2nd in points. You know, you documented early on how he was running up there inside the top 10, top 15. So continues the consistency there for that 91 truck.
Absolutely. Just kind of looking through the rest of the field, obviously some notable names at the bottom of the list. I mean, again, Lewis Woodall, we touched on him earlier in the race where, I mean, even with that win and being locked automatically into the playoffs, he still needs to meet a certain point requirement. And right now, I think he's actually below that cut line. Cameron Perez, he had a lot of early issues. Aiden DuPont, Nathan Jump, Hunter Brittle. Hunter Brittle is one of those guys that we normally see hanging around there in the top 15, finishing back here in 31st. Even Kyle Hall, I mean, a lot of these guys that we normally see kind of fighting up here in the top 15, top 20, kind of had a rough night tonight.
We've seen drivers take hard hits in the point standings from Daytona into Rockingham and from Rockingham here into Long Beach. I think Hunter Brittle is going to definitely be a driver that will take a big hit in the point standings. Mentioned that Austin Moore came into this race tied for 2nd in points. Brittle was the driver he was tied with. So with that DNF here tonight in the 31st position, expect that Hunter Brittle will free fall through the point standings heading into the last great Coliseum of Bristol next week. But it's time to now go down trackside and find out, first off, what the impression of this racetrack was for these drivers, and then also the racing that took place upon it. Let's kick things off with tonight's 3rd place running, Hunter Madalinas. Hey, Hunter, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep, I got you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. A lot of unknowns coming into this street course race with these trucks. Looked like a lot of you were able to kind of figure this thing out after a little experimentation early on. I mean, your opinion of how it went down here tonight, because it looked like a lot of slipping and sliding here today, but ultimately you kept that truck in one piece.
Yeah, that's one crazy racetrack to try and keep your truck underneath you. Just the acceleration zones you got to go through, and just how that truck was handling on like minimal fuel. It was very difficult to stay and get on the power and try and race people. So at the start of the race was able to get up to 2nd. But man, Ashton was just miles faster than everybody there on that first run and 2nd run. But yeah, it was, I think, really difficult to try and keep the car together and not spin out.
So I've got to ask, because we saw later in the race you started having some I don't know if I'd call it second thoughts about your strategy, but when everyone started coming in the pit road, you dove on the pit road too. Was that more of an impulse call, or hey, I had to come down the pit road?
Well, the first time I wanted to pit early to try and make it a 2-stop because I felt like you could 1-stop, but with the pace you were dropping on old tires, it was going to be better to two stop. On that second pit stop, I wanted to run a little bit later so that I could get a point for leading a lap. So it was more of the strategy of getting an extra bonus point for just staying out.
Now, we knew that this was going to be a track with really tight corners, and for us up here in the booth, we had a blast watching you guys have to try and strategically work your way through the lap trucks. May have not been as much fun for you guys down there, having to try and figure out when to catch a truck, when to be able to pass them, and not lose momentum to the guys you were battling. But I mean, how difficult was it to do that here? Because we know that if you make a mistake at this track, more often than not, it's going to get you in some way, shape, or form, and it's hard enough to do that double wide.
Yeah, it depends on the type of driver you caught. So a couple cars who understand the deal of what the leaders had to go through, they kind of got out of the way and didn't have a problem. You had a couple guys spin in the way. I know I nearly hit Steve McLean as he spun in the middle of the racetrack, and I think that was the scariest moment of that whole race. But it was more of just you had to work it out with the lap cars. If you just came over the radio and like I was doing and just said something to them, they got right out anyway. So it wasn't very difficult. But then you had some guys who were racing each other that you just had to be patient.
Well, a great run for you here tonight. You ended up bringing it home in P3. You kept your nose clean for the most part. You were just outside of the top 10, the point standings coming into this one, 11th in the standings, and so a solid run tonight's going to have you up inside the top 10 heading into Bristol. I mean, we've had a couple of wild card races here back to back now. Here this evening, and next week we go to a short track with upwards of maybe 40 trucks. So, what's the thought process going into that one? Is there a strategy?
Not die. I think I have a curse on Bristol, so I don't know what it is, what I have with that racetrack, but that track I guess hates me.
Well, we'll look to see if you can reverse the luck there, and maybe we'll see in victory lane. Hunter, congratulations once again on a great performance here tonight at the street course of Long Beach. We're going to now hand the microphone over to you, let you do some shout outs and some thank yous.
All right, thank you. Shout out to Nicholson. He drove a pretty good race. Shout out to E95. Big thanks to Elliot for bringing me a part of this great team. I wanted to try and make something, a bounce back from obviously our bad season last season. And I came to Elliot, and he was the guy who picked me up. And, he's definitely helped me out a lot. And I don't think I could have had a better team owner.
Well, Hunter Madalinas started this race from the third position, finishes in the third position, led a couple of laps as well. Strong run here tonight at the road course in Long Beach. Congratulations on the great performance, and best of luck to you next week at Bristol.
Thank you.
Well, and we end up having a battle for the win. We'd like to be able to get both parties' opinion of what went down. Doesn't look like we have our second place finisher, Ashton Lawson, on standby, but we are able to go down to victory lane and talk with tonight's race winner, and that, of course, is Nathan Nicholson.
You,
Hey, Nathan, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
mm-hmm.
Well, man, I mean, 3 races in, 2 checkered flags. We knew based off of your dominating performance last season at Watkins Glen, you were certainly going to be one of the ones to watch here today. You didn't have the dominant truck early on, but you were able to make your way up there to the front late and close this thing out. When we talked to you last week, you weren't really looking forward to this particular race, but now the checkered flag is in your hand. What's the opinion today?
I still didn't like it. It really wasn't that fun to me. Hard to pass, wrecks everywhere, moving chicanes. So I mean, I would have preferred a different road course or somewhere a little bit more width to it.
Earth. I'll go ahead. I won't beat around the bush. I'll go ahead and ask you straight out. What happened?
What do you mean by what happened?
Like, what happened with Ashton Lawson?
I mean, nothing. It's just hard racing. If he was in my shoes, I mean, it's just hard racing. That's how me and him have always raced. We just race really hard with each other. I have no other comment on what happened.
Obviously, we've got Bristol coming up next week. You've got 2 wins in the bank. So, Do we end up seeing you be able to kick it up maybe to an even higher gear now that you've got some breathing space and just try and see if you can get some more W's here down the rest of this regular season?
Probably not because no my luck, I'll get shipped by Ashton, put in the wall. I'm already kind of looking ahead at that. Bristol, it's hit or miss. I like Bristol, but I'm not that good at Bristol. But it's just a hit or miss. It depends on if it's just caution fest or it goes green. Um, that I'll just have to leave up to Tuesday.
Well, Nathan, you get your second checkered flag of the season here in 3 races. Certainly, at least for the time being, looking like you're sitting up there in the first seed for the playoffs. Congratulations on the victory here tonight. And now we'll give it the opportunity for some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
I'm thinking 25-11 like I did last week. I didn't put any practice. I maybe did like 115 lap run, and that's all I did. I really got the guys. I gave them some track notes. I went and made a whole entire track note list, breaking points, lifting points, and everything like that, and helped them. And they got pretty good finishes, except for Heller. I feel real bad for him. He got killed early on, but I mean, that is what it is at that track. But thank y'all for broadcasting. I have nothing against Ashton. He's a good dude. I'm gonna thank him for being a good dude. I mean, he's probably gonna come in here and say otherwise, but hey, man, that's just hard racing. There ain't nothing I can do about it.
That's Nathan Nicholson. He's your winner here tonight at Long Beach. Congratulations on the victory. Best of luck next week when we head to the world's fastest half mile.
All righty.
All right, so we got the one side of the argument. Let's see if we can now dial up our second place finisher, Ashton Lawson, who is on standby. Ashton, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Sadly, yep.
Well, I mean, you had a strong truck here tonight, fastest in practice, got the pole position, dominated this race. Also looked like you had one of the best trucks for making your way through traffic there as well. So, I mean, we were watching a lot of guys struggle with making their way around this racetrack. What was there you were able to find with this combination of truck and track that was able to have you be so successful?
I mean, it honestly didn't handle very well, and it just came down to your right foot. Shows a difference on a lot of drivers in the series.
So, Ashton, I'll go ahead and I'll ask you the same exact question I just asked Nathan. What happened between you and Nathan?
He's just a punk and drives like Nathan Chastain, and his teammates held me up on purpose. That's all I gotta say.
That's
So
it?
obviously we got some tracks coming up here in future in the schedule. We of course have next week at Bristol. We got another road course that's going to be coming up in about 3 weeks' time at Montreal. So, does this continue on? Do we see repercussions, or do you just kind of move on? Because we know that each week you've got a strong truck that's capable of winning races. So, where does the focus go from here on in?
Nathan's not gonna be on track on late lap by lap 200 at Bristol. Guarantee it.
All right, well, that's going to be something we'll certainly be following up when we get to the Last Great Coliseum next week. But I mean, Ashton, certainly take nothing away from the performance you had here tonight. Strong truck, you bring it home P2, going to gain some valuable points in the standings as well. I know, obviously, you feel that you should have that checkered flag be the one in victory lane, but we'll now hand that mic over to you and let you do some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Just want to thank all my teammates at Spectrum Racing for understanding the BS that sometimes other teams in this league can create. Thank Eric Kep for having a good show tonight.
That's Ashton Lawson. He's your second place finisher here tonight at Long Beach. Congratulations on the great performance there. Hopefully, we'll see what you're able to do maybe in victory lane next week at Bristol.
Thank you.
Well, we kind of got the idea, Matt, that there was going to be some tempers flaring, some bad blood after what we saw there in that battle for the race lead. Certainly a difference of opinion. We
Like I
kind of led
told
up
you,
to it. We led
it,
up to it.
it's
Bristol's next week. We
it's a
just
court of
heard there.
public opinion.
Yeah, we heard there from Ashton Lawson. He's going to take action next week based on what happened here tonight. A thing I have to wonder too, two pretty big teams there, Spectrum Racing and 2511 Racing. At what point did the teammates maybe get in there standing up for their respective opinions as well on what went down between those two?
That's where it gets murky, and I think that's better left for like a Great Lakes podcast. But that's where it gets really murky. Where if someone hit one of my teammates, yeah, I'm going for blood. You're defending the team honor, but that gets into a very murky. Hey, he just hit me for no reason. Now this team's ganging up on me. Now we need to get the entire team involved. And that's where it starts getting really ugly. And I mean, I, I know viewers can't see, but a lot of people in the general chat here, I mean, there is opinions on every team about how this went down. So like I said, Bristol will be an interesting point, and then going past Bristol will be a very interesting rest of the season.
We heard Ashton say, to quote him, Nicholson will not be on the lead lap by the end of lap 200. Obviously, management of the series is going to be hearing that. At what point do they step in? Do they let this play out? Is there anything they can do at this point in time until the payback takes place?
And that gets into another one of those murky situations where, I mean, boys have at it, uh, but boys have at it has a limit where you can't sit back and say, okay, I know this is going to happen. We can't just let this happen. You have to make the rules known, but you can't preemptively act on something that's not happened. So, I mean, any penalties going towards either of the drivers, I mean, it doesn't make sense to give any of them because there's no foul that's really been committed yet. I mean, obviously you can see it from Ashton's perspective. He got bumped out from the lead and effectively that cost him a chance at a win. But you can also see it from Nathan's perspective where, hey, he was racing me hard. I raced him hard. We ended up bumping and hey, I ended up passing him and driving him away. It's one of those things where you kind of got to put yourself in both situations. And right now, I don't think a big foul has been thrown, but it's whoever acts first and whoever really shows, hey, this is the extent of what we're going to do, and this is who's going to be at fault, and this is what's going to be the fallout. Next week will be interesting. This will be a very interesting week for administration.
Yeah. And I mean, with these storylines heading into Bristol next week, a track where we know scores are settled, I'll tell you who the real winners are. That's going to be the fans. They're going to be tuning in next week. I mean, my gosh.
I'm going to tell you, I don't want
if
to.
this,
I'm going to end
if
up being a car in next week's field. I'm going to tell you, I have never felt more unsafe about my
oh,
starting position.
if this doesn't whet your appetite for Bristol, I don't know what will. My goodness.
I'm going to tell you,
Uh,
the most interesting perspective on that will be whoever qualifies right in between Nathan Nicholson and Ashton Lawson. That would be the most interesting perspective.
the proverbial no man's
Yeah.
land. You got the fight going on
A rock
either
in a
end,
hard
and
place at that point.
oh, just watching the rockets fly overhead. But I'll tell you what, though, we knew coming into tonight that there was going to be a lot of unknowns. We weren't certain what the drivers' opinions were going to be. We weren't certain what the racing was going to be like. A lot of answers leaving this track here this evening,
And
and
that's the big thing.
obviously,
Where there's a whole week ahead of us where this
yeah,
can get settled out of the racetrack. And is there a chance that they put water under the bridge and there's not another incident? 100%. There's a
oh yeah,
chance. But
absolutely.
there's also a chance of, like I said, I've done those personal calls before and said, hey, yeah, I messed up. And it turned a little situation into hey, this is a lot bigger issue. And this didn't resolve anything. This just made it worse. So this will be an interesting one to see next week.
Definitely will. We appreciate everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight for the Great Lake Truck Series presented by Patti Engineering at Long Beach. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Again, be sure to tune in next week as the schedule continues on at Bristol. Next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Flatout Racing Network will bring you coverage of that. Matt, it's been an interesting one here tonight. A lot of questions got answered, but more questions develop going into next week. Tell you what, though, it's been a blast. Appreciate you joining the booth.
I'll enjoy being invited. I think I may join you another part of this season, but that will be wait to be seen.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here this evening at the Grand Prix of Long Beach for the Great Lake Truck Series. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Yeah, even I'm flustered with all these storylines. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's